You see the reason some people pray and they are expecting that their answer will come later is because they think their answer is traveling from heaven to them. But most times as you pray, God wakes up on your inside and God begins to answer you from within you. If you know that, even when you are not talking, you can be praying. I was telling them in the morning, those of us who are falling before to violence, to immorality, did we go to consult any demon? How did you commune with the demon? How many of you have gone to kneel down somewhere and say, oh demon, and you start praying to the demon? There's nobody, but where's the communion? In your soul. The demon is whispering, you are connected, and you can have a communion of 3 hours with that demon. And some people leave that communion, they go and murder. A demon sits down and he inspires them. They build a communion and the marriage can break because of that 2 hours communion. So that communion that is not spoken is strong and can impact them. See how corrupt our world is today because of internal communion with spirits that are in the inside of men. Most murders are caused by internal communion. Most adulteries are caused by internal communion. To let you know that if you begin to build connection with the one in you, it can impact you as much as it will impact you when you are talking. The Bible said God is able to do, Ephesians 3:20, exceeding abundantly above all you ask or think. So you need to know that God is on your inside. So even when you are thinking, you are communing. If you now know this, your prayer will become an unbroken connection with God. When you leave your prayer altar, you will still be praying. You are driving, you can still be praying. Because so long as your heart is connected to God, God can be talking to you and you can be talking to God in your heart. And you will discover that your consciousness level of God will become higher. I told them that most people who hear God, they hear God in unconventional places. You can be in your bathroom and God starts talking. You can wake up from the sleep and God starts talking. If you don't know that God is on your inside, you will not have that level of relationship. And so if we want to grow in the knowledge of God, we must know that God is in heaven, God is in men, but above all, God is on our inside. It is the God on your inside that you can build an unbroken relationship with. The God in heaven, your relationship with him stops when you stop talking. The God in men, your relationship with him stops when the men leave you. But the God on your inside, even when you are sleeping, he can still be communing with you. That's why sometimes you wake up to a song in your heart because God is talking. He's still talking. You wake up to meet the relationship and you join it. So if you don't know that God is on your inside, you may not grow in the knowledge of God. This is the first dimension of revelational knowledge of God. You need to know that God is in you. If you know that God is in you, you have a relationship that cannot be broken. If you want to know about God, you may have to read or listen to others. If you don't read, if you don't listen to others, you won't know about God. In 1 Timothy chapter 4 verse 13, it says, until I come, give attendance to reading and to exhortation and to doctrine. And so every one of us here who began our journey with God, we heard people. We read about what people said, and we read books. If you see any serious Christian here, he would have read the Bible and at least read one of the God's generals. Because you want to hear what somebody else has to say about God. You want to know God. Now, when you start reading, you start knowing about God. So when you are preaching, anybody who knows who you heard will know where you got it from. So when you are talking, they can say, okay, that's Kenneth Hagin, that's E.W. Kenyon, that's Pastor Chris, that's Miles Moreau. Because you are not touching God. You are transferring what somebody has said. So you are at the level of gnosis. Now, if you want to migrate to gnosko, you must add to your reading prayer. You will stay in God's presence. So that when you are saying what you heard from people, the Holy Ghost can add something. So the way to migrate from gnosis is to not only read, but to now stay with God. So after I read, if I want to go for my meeting, I'll spend 1 hour in God's presence. I'm just talking to God, and God may not say anything. When I now come to the altar, as I'm saying what I read or heard, the Holy Ghost now will start punctuating. So now that I stay with God, I can move from gnosis to idol. But if I want to progress from idol to epignosis, I will not only go to God the day I have a meeting. Every day I wake up now, I will stay with God. So now I will have to become consistent. The guy who operates in idol will go to God when he wants to go and preach. And because that's when he goes to God, that's when he will hear God. But the guy who wants to experience God continually, we put God in his daily routine. So even if I don't have a meeting for 3 weeks, every day I will stay with God. Every day. So now God will start talking to me things that have nothing to do with any meeting, because I'm not going to a meeting. A point will come, even when I want to dress up, the Holy Ghost can tell me wear white. And I will hear him. So this one is no longer about meeting, it's now relationship. I want to go out. The Holy Ghost can say, wait a while. And that waiting will make me escape an accident. So now God is not talking to me because I'm a preacher. God is now building a relationship with me. So I now know God's voice, not because of a meeting, but because there's a relationship. Now, how did I migrate there? I migrated there through consistency. So the way you move into epignosis is by building a consistent walk with God. This is why you see the fathers, they have what they call quiet time. Every day, when that time comes, they go and stay with God. And as you keep staying, the voice of God will become frequent. So you will move from disclosure to experience. Now, how do I move from epignosis to ginosko? The way you move from epignosis to ginosko is to begin to study the pattern of what God told you. So you will now notice that every time God talks to you authoritatively, your life is in danger. You will now notice that